happy to take any questions. We've already started that process, as you'd be aware, in terms of having some arrivals back into Australia who are Australian citizens, and indeed some migrants coming in. And obviously, as of yesterday, we had some New Zealanders coming into the country as well. And we're slowly increasing the numbers there. We're working, of course, on further quarantine arrangements. We're working on further bubble arrangements. But this would clearly be an additional tool which would help facilitate the further reopening of the borders.
The Prime Minister flagged yesterday more international students and corporate visitors that may not need to quarantine, or at least have some other form of quarantine, like home quarantine or corporate quarantine. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so those things are all being investigated as we speak. Obviously, the Howard Springs quarantine facility is potentially available for 5,000 more Australians to be able to quarantine there, which is good news for those Australians who are wanting to come back. But we're looking at all of these options so that there is more capacity for Australians and indeed for foreigners to be able to enter into the country in a safe manner. But what we're announcing today in terms of a new digital incoming passenger card is another further step towards us safely reopening the borders too. Well, we're investigating all of these things. I'm not responsible for that particular activity, but all of these are under considerations in terms of wanting to ensure that we have safe quarantine mechanisms in place so that people can safely come into the country.
How were the 17 Kiwis allowed to enter Victoria?
Well, let me just say a few things in relation to that, because clearly Premier Andrews had some very strong comments today in relation to this, and I think that his comments today, frankly, are a complete distraction, and I hope that he actually focuses on keeping up with his side of the bargain. Victorians have done their side of the bargain in terms of adhering to very severe restrictions for months now, and we hope that the Premier will adhere to his side of the bargain tomorrow and start to open up in a similar manner to what New South Wales has done. I'm a Victorian myself. I just arrived literally last night, having quarantined for 2 weeks in Victoria. And I can tell you the mental health consequences of the lockdown are absolutely enormous. Beyond Blue alone has had a 77% increase in inquiries to Victoria compared to any other jurisdiction. We know that we've had a 30% increase in September on the Medicare-supported counselling sessions compared to September of last year, let alone the 77,000 jobs that have been lost over the last couple of months. So there's really serious consequences associated with this lockdown, both from a health perspective, from a social perspective, but equally from an economic perspective too. And as I said, I hope that the Premier will focus on doing his side of the bargain tomorrow, because Victorians have worked so hard to do their side of the bargain. Well, I just want to make this point clear as well, that this was discussed in the AHPPC meeting on Monday of this week. The concept that people may be arriving into New South Wales and then potentially going on to other destinations was explicitly raised in the meeting, and no official from any jurisdiction raised concerns in relation to that. There was an understanding that when Kiwis arrived into Sydney, coming from a country which has zero community transmissions, that there'd be no need for quarantining, and that once they had arrived into Sydney, that they would be treated like any other person in New South Wales, any other Australian, any other visa holder, and therefore be able to travel into those jurisdictions which enable those people to travel into them. And that, of course, included Victoria. I'll just make one further point as well in relation to a point which the Premier raised on the concerns the incoming passenger cards. They were requested this morning just after 8 o'clock from the Australian Border Force Commissioner, and they were delivered to the Victorian government at midday, so 4 hours later. As soon as the request was made, the Commonwealth Government went straight to work in finding those incoming passenger cards and delivering those incoming passenger cards to Victorian contact tracing authorities. Of course, in the future, this will be a digital process, so that when you actually enter the information on your phone or on your computer before you depart, that will automatically go to the contact tracers.
Who are they? Are they Victorian residents?
Uh,
Those that from New Zealand that sent to Victoria last night?
So there's 17 people. My understanding is there were 17 New Zealanders who came in last night that I don't know their nationalities actually. I'm not aware of that, whether or not they're Kiwi citizens or whether they're Australian citizens. I don't know.
The government has had
I can get that information for you, I think.